Have you ever stopped to think about how languages build powerful new words out of ones that already exist? Well, in Hindi, there's this really elegant way of doing it called samas. Honestly, it's a fascinating concept that makes the language so much more efficient. So let's just jump right in and see how it all works.
So what exactly is samas? You can think of it as a technique for word compounding. It's almost like a form of linguistic alchemy, right? You take a couple of words, you fuse them together, and poof, you get a single, shorter, and really meaningful new word. It's just a brilliant way to make the language both efficient and super expressive.
Okay, here's a perfect example to show you what I mean. The phrase Rajakaputra, which just means the king's son, gets squeezed down into one simple, elegant word, Rajputra. You've said the exact same thing, but you used fewer words to do it. See? That is the magic of samas right there.
But, it's not a total free-for-all. There are rules and different ways to combine these words. There are actually 6 main types of samas, and I find it helpful to think of them as different kinds of building blocks, where each one has its own special power for creating new words. So here are the big 6: Avyabhav, Tatpurish, Karmadharya, Dvandva, Dwigu, and Bhuvihari. Now don't worry about the names, we're going to make this super simple. We'll just tackle them in 2 parts, 3 at a time.
All right, let's dive into our first group. These 3 types are really the foundation, and once you get these, you'll have a fantastic grasp of how samas really works.
First up, we've got Av-I-Bhav samas. Now this one has a very specific and actually pretty easy to spot characteristic. It's all about that first word in the pair.
Okay, so here's the defining rule. The first part of the word is something called an avyay. An avyay is basically an unchangeable word, kind of like a prefix or an adverb that doesn't change no matter the gender, number, or tense. And it's this unchangeable part that really dictates the meaning of the entire new word.
Let's look at it in action. Yatha, which means according to, combines with shakti, meaning ability, and it becomes yatha shakti, or according to one's ability. Makes sense, right? Same thing with prati, meaning every, plus din, meaning day, which becomes pratidin, every day. You see how that first unchangeable word just sets the meaning for the whole thing?
Okay, let's move on to our second block, Tatpurush samas. This one kind of flips the script. Instead of the first word being the most important, it's the second word that gets all the attention and takes center stage.
Look at how the focus shifts in these examples. In Rajputra, the main subject isn't really the king, it's the son. In Jalpatra, or water vessel, we're focused on the vessel. And in Vanvasi, a forest dweller, the important part is the dweller. So with this type, the second word is always the dominant one.
And the third block in our first half is Karmadharya samas. If you're a fan of descriptive language, I think you're going to love this one. It is all about description and adding detail.
The rule here is super simple. One word is an adjective that describes the other word, which is a noun. So Neel, or blue, describes Kamal, or lotus, to give us Neel Kamal, a blue lotus. Maha, meaning great, describes Purush, meaning man, to give us Mahapurush, a great man. It just paints a vivid picture.
All right, you're doing awesome. We've made it through the first 3. Now let's get into the final set of blocks, which introduce some even more fascinating and subtle ways of building words.
Okay, next up we have Dvandva samas. So while the other types we looked at had one word that was clearly more dominant, this one is all about partnership and, well, equality.
So the big rule here is that both parts of the new word are equally important. You can almost think of it as the and samas. Mata, mother, and pita, father, become mata pita. Din, day, and rat, night, become dinrat. Neither word is more important than the other, they just exist together as a pair.
Now for our 5th type, Dvigu samas. This one might have the easiest and most memorable rule of them all. Seriously, it's all about numbers.
Yup, the key identifier here is just that simple. The first word is a number. Tri for 3 plus lok for worlds gives you trilok, the 3 worlds. Chatur, or 4, combines to make Chaturbhuj, a group of 4 arms. Sapta, which is 7, gives us Saptarishi, the 7 sages. So if you spot a number at the start of the word, it's almost definitely a Dvigu samas.
And that brings us to our final, and you could argue most creative, type, Bahuvani samas. This is where things get really interesting, because the meaning of the new word is, well, it's often not what you'd expect just by looking at the parts.
With this type, you kind of have to leave the literal meaning behind. Dash 10 plus anen, faces, literally means 10 faces. But the word Dashanan doesn't just mean anyone with 10 faces. It specifically refers to the mythological king Ravana. The two words combined to point to a totally different third thing. It's symbolic.
And this brings up something that can be a little tricky, the difference between Dwigu and Bahuvri, especially when there's a number. Let's take the word Chaturbuhu. As a Dwigu, samast, it just means a group of 4 arms, like a shape in geometry. But as a Bahuvri, samast, it means he who has 4 arms, which is a specific name for Lord Vishnu. So in cases like this, context is absolutely everything.
And there you have it. Those are the 6 fundamental types of samas. Now, to make sure this all sticks, we put together a quick little cheat sheet for you.
So let's just run through the key identifiers one last time. For Avyayibhav, the first word is unchangeable. For Tat Purush, the second word is dominant. Karmadare, that's your adjective plus a noun. Dvandva is when both parts are equal. Dwigu is the easy one. It starts with a number. And finally, Bahuvri is when it creates a completely new third meaning. This right here is your go-to guide.
So, next time you're reading or listening to Hindi, keep your eyes and ears open. You now have the blueprint to see and understand how these powerful compound words are built. The only question is, where are you going to spot them first? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.